"You're being careless again, Lena. The condensation rings. Seriously." That was the last thing Jasper said to me before he disappeared into the bedroom to pick out his socks. He said it with that specific, curated disappointment he reserves for when I disrupt the visual harmony of our loft. He was standing there in his vintage selvage denim, holding my world's okayest analyst mug like it was a piece of radioactive waste because I'd set it down on his precious mid-century teak sideboard without a coaster. Careless. The word hung in the air, mixing with the smell of the single-origin Ethiopian pour-over coffee he insisted on brewing every morning. That was at 7:05 a.m. By 7:15 a.m., I was standing in the master bathroom, my knees locked, staring at the plastic stick I'd just fished out of the garbage can. I wasn't snooping. I swear to God, I wasn't looking for trouble. It was Wednesday. Wednesday is trash day. I'm the one who empties the small bins because Jasper doesn't do bathroom refuse. He thinks it's beneath his dignity as a curator of high-end audio equipment. I had the liner bag in my hand, ready to tie it off when I saw it. It wasn't just tossed in there. It was buried. Deliberately wedged between a clump of wet coffee grounds, which he isn't supposed to put in the bathroom trash, and an empty toilet paper roll. I don't know why I reached for it. It was instinct. Data analysis is my job. When a data point is an outlier, you investigate. And a white plastic stick wrapped in 3 layers of toilet paper is a massive outlier in a house occupied by a couple who swore a blood oath against parenthood 5 years ago. I unwrapped it with 2 fingers, trying not to touch the wet parts. 2 lines. Bright pink. Unmistakable. My brain did a hard reboot. I stood there clutching this pee-soaked piece of plastic and ran the numbers. I have a copper IUD. I've had it for 4 years. I check the strings every month like a diligent little patient. I had my annual gyno appointment 6 weeks ago. Everything was in place. The statistical probability of me being pregnant without knowing it, without a single symptom, with a perfectly placed IUD, is so low it's basically a rounding error. And then there was the other variable. We hadn't had sex in 6 weeks. Jasper had been stressed about the shop. Inventory, he'd said. Supply chain issues. My chest started to heave. A silent, dry panic. I looked at the test again. It wasn't mine. It physically couldn't be mine, which meant someone else had been here. In my bathroom. In my home. I looked around the room. The exposed brick, the dual vanity sinks we paid way too much for, the expensive Aesop hand soap. Jasper insisted we buy to impress guests. It all looked the same, but the air felt different, heavier, violated. Someone had sat on my toilet. Someone had taken this test, panicked, or maybe celebrated, and then hidden it here. And Jasper, the man who lectures me about coaster usage and carelessness, had let her in. He had been reckless enough to let her leave this here. "Lena?" His voice drifted from the hallway, muffled by the distance. "Did you move my gray cashmere pullover? I can't find it." I froze. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I shoved the test into the pocket of my bathrobe, which was disgusting, I know, but I couldn't leave it there and I couldn't throw it away. I needed the data. "Coming," I managed to say. My voice sounded thin, reedy. I cleared my throat and tried again, forcing the trembling down into my stomach. "Check the cedar chest, Jasper, where it always is." I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked pale, my eyes wide and feral. I took a deep breath, splashed cold water on my face, and dried it with a towel that I suddenly wondered if she had used. He called me careless. But he was the one who left the evidence of his double life wrapped in Charmine and buried under coffee grounds. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The walk from the bathroom to the kitchen felt like walking across a tightrope over a pit of spikes. Every step was calculated. Don't shake, don't vomit, don't scream. Jasper was in the kitchen, leaning against the granite island, scrolling through his phone. He looked infuriatingly normal. He was wearing that gray pullover I'd told him where to find, the sleeves pushed up to his elbows, revealing the vintage Omega watch I'd bought him for our 5th anniversary. He looked handsome. That was the worst part. He looked like the man I loved, the man I'd built a life with for 7 years. "Found it," he muttered, not looking up. "The market is crashing again. Gideon is going to have a stroke." "That's nice," I said. I walked to the toaster. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip the counter edge to steady them. I needed a task. I grabbed 2 slices of sourdough, put them in, pushed the lever. Clunk. "You okay?" he asked. I stiffened. "Yeah, why?" "You're breathing weird, like you just ran up the stairs." He finally looked at me. His eyes were cool, blue, and completely unbothered. There was no guilt there. No shadow of a secret family, just mild annoyance that his wife was breathing too loudly. "Just a headache," I lied. "Didn't sleep well." He went back to his phone. "Well, don't forget, we have that thing with Gideon and his wife next week, and I'm going to be late tonight again. Another private listening session for a VIP client. Some tech bro from California wants to drop 50 grand on a turntable system. Gotta wine and dine him." "Right," I said. "Inventory, VIP clients." The words tasted like ash. He'd been using these excuses for months. The late nights, the inventory that never seemed to end. The supplier meetings on weekends. I watched him pour himself another cup of coffee. I stared at his back. "Who are you?" I thought. "Do you have a name for the baby? Did you tell her you love her? Did you tell her about me?" He turned around, cup in hand, and checked his watch. "I gotta run. I'm opening early." He walked over to me. This was the moment. The test. Usually he'd kiss me goodbye. A real kiss. Or at least a warm peck. He leaned in. I held my breath, trying not to recoil. His lips brushed my cheek. It was quick, dry, perfunctory. A muscle memory. A checkbox ticked on the list of things husbands do. "Bye, Lena. Try to relax today. You're too wound up." "Okay," I whispered. He grabbed his keys, the leather fob jingling, and walked out the door. I heard the heavy thud of the loft door closing, then the click of the deadlock. The silence that followed was deafening. It rushed in to fill the space he left, screaming the truth at me. The toast popped up. The sound made me jump, and a small sob escaped my throat. I sank down onto the kitchen floor, right there on the cold tile, clutching my bathrobe pocket where the plastic stick was burning a hole against my hip. I pulled it out again. Still 2 lines. Still positive. He was going to be a father. The man who told me he'd leave me if I ever stopped taking birth control was having a baby with someone else. I didn't cry. Not yet. The shock was starting to wear off, and something else was taking its place. A cold, hard clarity. It was the same feeling I got when I found a broken string of code in a massive database. The problem had been identified. Now I just had to trace the source. My office is on the 14th floor of a glass tower downtown. It's sterile, white, and silent. Exactly how I like it. I'm a senior systems analyst. My entire career is built on finding patterns in chaos, spotting discrepancies in data sets that other people miss. I get paid 6 figures to ask questions when the numbers don't add up, and my marriage didn't add up. I arrived at 9 a.m., 45 minutes late. I didn't even care. I walked past the reception desk, ignoring the good morning from the front desk security, and locked myself in my office. I sat down, opened my dual monitor setup, and did what I do best. I opened a new folder on my encrypted personal drive. I stared at the blinking cursor for a second, then typed the name, Project Demolition. I started with a blank document. I needed a timeline. Fact 1, positive pregnancy test found Wednesday, October 14th. Fact 2, approximate gestation for a positive test, 4 to 6 weeks minimum. Fact 3, Jasper's late nights started when? I pulled up my personal calendar. I cross-referenced it with my memory. The inventory excuses started ramping up in April, 6 months ago. I logged into our joint bank account. We kept separate personal accounts for fun money, but the mortgage, utilities, and household expenses came out of a joint checking account. I downloaded the CSV files for the last 12 months. My eyes scanned the rows of data, looking for anomalies. "Hey, Lena!" I jumped, minimizing the window instantly. Mason was standing in my doorway holding a stack of files. He's my work husband. Guy has seen me through 3 mergers and a nervous breakdown during the 21 audit. But right now, I wanted to throw a stapler at his head. "Knock, Mason! Jesus!" I snapped. He recoiled, eyebrows shooting up into his hairline. "Whoa, okay, sorry. Door was open. Just wanted to ask if you had the Q3 projections." I took a breath, forcing my heart rate down. "I'm sorry, I'm having a morning." Mason stepped fully inside and closed the door behind him. He dropped the goofy demeanor instantly. "You look like you've seen a ghost. You're pale as a sheet. Is everything okay with Jasper?" The name made me flinch. "Why would you ask that?" "Because you only look this stressed when the aesthete is on a rampage about rug textures," Mason said, sitting on the edge of my desk. "What did you do? Buy the wrong shade of ecru napkins?" I let out a laugh that sounded more like a bark. "I wish. I'm fine, Mason, just a migration issue with the new server. It's a mess." He studied me for a second. He knew I was lying. Mason and I had worked together for 5 years. He knew my lying face, but he also knew when to back off. "Okay," he said slowly. "Well, if you need to vent about the server, I'm around. We can get lunch, that Thai place you like?" "Maybe," I said. "I really need to focus on this, though." "Got it." He left, but he lingered at the door for a second too long, looking concerned. As soon as he was gone, I brought the spreadsheet back up. I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was my domain. Jasper might be good at manipulating people, at curating an image, but he was sloppy with details. He was an artist. I was an architect. I started filtering the transactions, gas stations, restaurants, ATM withdrawals. There, April 12th. An ATM withdrawal for $400. April 15th. Another for $400. May 1st. A charge at a floral shop I'd never heard of. Petal and thorn. I didn't get flowers in May. My birthday is in November. I highlighted the row. Petal and thorn. I Googled it. It was a boutique florist in the Pearl District. Expensive, romantic. I added it to the document, the first brick in the wall of evidence. I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was an investigator, and I was going to tear his life apart transaction by transaction. By 6 p.m., I was back at the loft pretending to make dinner. I was boiling pasta because it was the only thing I could manage without thinking. The smell of boiling water and starch filled the kitchen, usually a comfort, now just suffocating. My phone buzzed on the counter. Alara, my sister, the golden child, the one who did everything right, according to our mother. Married at 23, house in the suburbs, minivan, PTA president. I picked up, putting it on speaker so I could aggressively chop garlic. "Hey, Elle. Lydia, guess what?" Her voice was high, breathless. I could hear the chaotic shrieks of her 2 boys in the background. "What?" I asked, though my stomach dropped. I knew that tone. "Number 3, she squealed. "We're having another one. I just took the test." I froze, the knife hovering over a clove of garlic. The universe really had a twisted sense of humor. "Wow," I said, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. That's amazing, Elle. Congratulations." "We're so excited. Tom is hoping for a girl this time." "Look, I know you guys are anti-breeding or whatever," she laughed, a sound that grated on my nerves. "But seriously, Lena, you should reconsider. Jasper isn't getting any younger. And honestly, watching you guys in that empty glass box of an apartment, it worries me. Who's going to take care of you when you're old?" I gripped the knife handle tighter. "We're happy, Alara. We have our careers. We have freedom." "Do you?" She sighed. "Mom was asking about you the other day. She thinks Jasper is the one holding you back. Is he? Because honestly, Lena, men say they don't want kids until they meet a woman who makes them want them." The words hit me like a physical slap. Men say they don't want kids until they meet a woman who makes them want them. The kitchen dissolved around me. I was suddenly back in the car with Jasper 3 years ago. We were driving back from Alara's baby shower for her second kid. I had made a joke about how cute the baby booties were. Jasper had pulled the car over, actually pulled over on the side of I-5. He looked at me, dead serious. "Lydia, listen to me," he had said, his voice cold and hard. "I am not interested in the parent trap. Children are parasites to creativity. They drain your resources, your time, your identity. I love our life. I love us. If you want a baby, you need to be with someone else, because it will never be me. Ever." I had cried, but then I had agreed. I convinced myself I didn't want them either. I convinced myself that his artistic vision was more important than a family. I sacrificed that part of my future to keep him. And now? Now there was a plastic stick in my pocket that proved he lied. He didn't hate children. He hated the idea of children with me. "Lena, you there?" Alara's voice snapped me back. "Yeah," I choked out. "Yeah, I'm here. Just, the garlic is burning." "Okay, well, think about it. Love you." She hung up. I looked down. The garlic in the pan was black, smoking, ruined. I scraped it all into the trash, right on top of the coffee grounds where he'd hidden the test, and turned off the stove. I wasn't hungry anyway. I waited until 8:01 p.m. Jasper texted, "Running late. Inventory nightmare. Don't wait up." "Liar," I said to the empty room. I went back to the bathroom. The scene of the crime. If he was sloppy enough to leave a test, he was sloppy enough to leave something else. I closed the door and locked it, paranoid that he might teleport into the hallway. I turned on the bright vanity lights. I became a crime scene tech. I started with the obvious spots. The medicine cabinet, clean. Just his beard oil and my moisturizer. The drawers, toothpaste, floss, extra razors. I got down on my hands and knees and opened the cabinet under the sink. It was cluttered. Cleaning supplies, extra toilet paper, a stack of old towels we used for spills. I started pulling things out. Bleach, Windex. A bag of cotton balls. In the back corner, behind the plumbing U-bend, there was a box of Mr. Clean magic erasers. But the box looked weird. The flap was bent, like it had been opened and closed too many times. I pulled it out. It felt too heavy. I opened it. There were no sponges inside. Instead, there was a small zippered canvas pouch. It was navy blue with little white anchors on it. Definitely not mine. It looked cheap, like something you'd buy at Target, a store Jasper refused to enter. My hands were shaking again as I unzipped it. Inside, a bottle of prenatal vitamins, nature-made brand, a blister pack of folic acid, a folded piece of thermal paper. I unfolded the paper. It was a receipt from the Women's Wellness Clinic on 23rd Avenue. Date, October 1st, 2 weeks ago. Patient name, Sophie Callahan. Service, initial OB consult, ultrasound. Payment method, Visa ending in 4490. That wasn't our joint card. That wasn't his personal card. I knew the number. It was 8821. I sat back on my heels, the receipt crinkling in my fist. Sophie. Her name was Sophie. It made it real in a way the test hadn't. The other woman was an abstract concept. Sophie Callahan was a person who needed folic acid, a person who had an ultrasound 2 weeks ago, a person Jasper was presumably with right now while he told me he was counting amplifiers. I pulled out my phone. I didn't just look. I documented. I took photos of the bag, the vitamins, the receipt. I made sure the date and the name were legible. I took a video of exactly where it was hidden. Then, with surgical precision, I put it all back. Vitamins in the bag, receipt folded in the same crease, bag in the sponge box behind the pipe. I stood up and caught my reflection in the mirror again. The panic was gone. Now, I just looked dangerous. "Sophie Callahan," I whispered. "Nice to meet you." It was 2 a.m. when I heard the front door open. I was in bed pretending to be asleep. I listened to his routine. Keys in the bowl. Too loud. Shoes off. He didn't come into the bedroom immediately. He went to the kitchen. I heard the fridge open, a beer cap pop. He stayed out there for 20 minutes, drinking, probably texting her. Finally, he crept into the bedroom. He smelled like IPA and something floral, a cloying, powdery perfume that stuck to his clothes. He stripped down to his boxers and slid into bed beside me. He didn't touch me. He rolled to the edge of the mattress, putting as much distance between us as possible. I waited. I counted his breaths. 1, 2, 3, 10 minutes. 20. His breathing shifted into the deep, rhythmic rasp of sleep. I opened my eyes. I needed the digital trail. The receipt was good, but it didn't prove he was the father, technically. It just proved he was hiding a pregnant woman's vitamins. I needed the conversation. I knew he kept secrets in his gym bag, a vintage leather duffel he kept in the bottom of the closet. He never went to the gym. He used it to transport gear. I slipped out of bed, silent as a ghost. I crawled across the floor to the closet. I found the bag. I unzipped the side pocket. I felt around. Hard plastic. A phone. It wasn't his iPhone 14 Pro. It was a cheap, cracked Samsung Galaxy. A burner. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he'd hear it. I took the phone into the bathroom and shut the door, huddled on the bath mat. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. Passcode required. Damn it. I tried the obvious ones. 1234, incorrect. 000, incorrect. 1111, incorrect. Think, Lena. Think like him. He's arrogant. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. He wouldn't use a random number. He'd use something meaningful. His birthday? U614. Incorrect. My birthday? Ha. No. The day he opened the shop? G909. Click. The phone unlocked. I almost dropped it. The arrogance of this man. He used the date he founded Analog as the password to his secret life. The wallpaper photo loaded. I gagged, literally gagged. It was a selfie. Jasper looking goofy and grinning, a smile I hadn't seen in years, with his arm around a girl. She was young, maybe late 20s, blonde, athletic, wearing a yoga top. They were standing in front of a mirror, and his hand was resting on her stomach. She wasn't showing much, but the pose was possessive, proud. Sophie. I went to the Messages app, one thread. My Soph. I opened it. Jasper. I promise, babe. I'm telling her this weekend. I just need the timing to be right. Sophie. You said that last month. My parents are asking questions, Jazz. I can't hide this forever. Jasper. I know. She's fragile. If I do it wrong, she'll try to take half the business. I have to secure the assets first. Fragile? Fragile? I was the one who balanced our portfolios. I was the one who fixed the plumbing when it broke. I scrolled up. Photos, ultrasounds, discussions about cribs. Jasper. I transferred the rent for the Avery. Check is in the mail. Love you. The Avery. Rent. I needed to export this. I needed to send these screenshots to myself. I hit share on a photo. Suddenly, from the bedroom, thump. Footsteps. Panic seized me. He was up. He was coming to the bathroom. I couldn't be found with the phone. I couldn't let him know I knew. Not yet. Renee, the lawyer voice in my head, though I hadn't met her yet, screamed, "Don't blow your cover." I canceled the share. I wiped the screen with my sleeve to remove fingerprints. I turned it off. I threw the bathroom door open and flushed the toilet at the same time, hiding the phone in the waistband of my pajama pants. Jasper was standing in the doorway, blinking, confused. "Lydia, what are you doing?" "Sick," I gasped, doubling over. "Stomach bug, I think the garlic—" He looked at me with disgust. "Great, well, keep it down. I have a meeting at 8. He turned around and went back to bed. I waited until his breathing evened out again. I crept back to the closet and shoved the phone back into the bag. I had seen the truth, but I hadn't secured the evidence. I hadn't emailed the photos. The next morning, as soon as he left for the shower, I checked the bag again. I needed those screenshots. I grabbed the phone. Entered 0909. Incorrect passcode. My blood ran cold. I tried again. 009. Incorrect passcode. He knew, or he suspected, or maybe he just changed it regularly because he was a paranoid narcissist. I had lost the digital smoking gun. I had the memory, but in court, memory is hearsay. I needed hard proof. 2 days later, I was sitting in a leather chair that probably cost more than my first car, looking out at the Willamette River. Renee Sterling didn't look like a lawyer. She looked like a Vogue editor who killed people for sport. Sharp bob, tailored suit, glasses that were more architecture than eyewear. She listened to my story without blinking. I told her about the test, the receipt, the phone, the passcode screw-up. I messed up, I said, staring at my hands. I had the texts, and I lost them. Renee leaned forward, steepling her fingers. You didn't mess up, Lena. You're human. But now we have to pivot. She picked up a silver pen. Oregon is a no-fault divorce state. I don't need to prove he's sleeping with a Pilates instructor to get you a divorce. The court doesn't care about his morals. Then what do? We care about the money, Renee said, her voice dropping an octave. You saw a text about securing assets and paying rent, correct? Yes. He said he transferred rent for the Avery. Good. That's our angle. It's called marital dissipation. If he is using community funds, your money, the business money, to support a paramour, that is actionable. We don't just divorce him. We claw that money back. We prove he breached his fiduciary duty to the marriage and to his business partner. She scribbled something on a yellow pad. You said he has a partner? Gideon? Yes. Gideon put up 60% of the capital for Analog. He's the silent money. Renee smiled, and it was the most terrifying and beautiful thing I'd ever seen. If Jasper is using business accounts to pay for his mistress's apartment, he's not just cheating on you. He's embezzling from Gideon. That is the leverage we need. I don't want you to find love letters, Lena. I want you to find checks. She handed me a card. This is Otis. He's a private investigator. He's expensive, he smells like old tobacco, and he's a genius. Hire him. Find out where the Avery is. Find out how he's paying for it. And do not, under any circumstances, let Jasper know you know. Be the perfect wife. Bake him cookies. Iron his shirts. Let him feel safe. I have to pretend, I asked, feeling bile rise in my throat. You have to perform, Renee corrected. You're not the wife anymore, Lena. You're the spy. Renee wasn't kidding about the smell. I met Otis at Slim's Diner in Southeast Portland. He was sitting in a booth eating a burger that was 80% grease, wearing a faded Carhartt jacket. He looked like a retired longshoreman, not a detective. I slid into the booth opposite him. He didn't look up. You the lady with the audiophile husband? He asked, mouth full. Yes, Jasper. Renee says you lost the phone evidence. He wiped his hands on a napkin. Rookie move. I know, I snapped. That's why I'm hiring you. I handed him the folder I'd compiled, the photo of the receipt, the name Sophie Callahan, the notes about the Avery. Otis flipped through it. Sophie Callahan, common name. The Avery sounds like one of those gentrified hives they're building in the Pearl. Overpriced cardboard. Can you find her? I can find anyone. But listen, he pointed a fry at me. Surveillance takes time, and it's boring. I'm going to charge you by the hour to sit in my car and watch your husband buy lattes. You sure you want to do this? I don't care about the lattes, I said. I need to know where the money is going. I need to know where this apartment is so I can prove he's paying for it. Otis nodded. Follow the money. Smart. Okay, I'll tail him starting tomorrow. Give me a schedule. He says he has inventory on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Inventory? Otis snorted. Classic. All right. I'll let you know when I have a visual. But don't expect miracles overnight. If he's paranoid enough to change his phone code, he might be checking his mirrors. He's not that smart, I said, thinking of the pregnancy test in the trash. He's arrogant. He thinks I'm invisible. Arrogance is good, Otis said. Arrogance makes mistakes. Otis was doing the footwork, but I couldn't just sit around. I took Renee's advice. I became a financial forensic analyst. I opened a new bank account at a credit union Jasper didn't know existed. I started siphoning small amounts of money from my personal savings, just enough to have an escape fund, not enough to trigger alerts. Then I dove back into the credit card statements. I spent 3 nights analyzing the last year of transactions. I built a pivot table in Excel. Category, gas. Category, groceries. Category, cash. I found a pattern. Every Friday, Jasper withdrew $300 cash. Every Tuesday, there was a charge at a Chevron station on NW 23rd Ave. I looked up the Chevron. It was nowhere near our loft. It was nowhere near the shop. It was in the Northwest District. Why was he getting gas there every Tuesday? I looked at the map. I zoomed in on the blocks surrounding that Chevron. Restaurants, boutiques, yoga studios. There was a yoga studio 3 blocks away called Core Power. I searched the studio's website. I clicked on Instructors, and there she was, Sophie. Her bio photo was professional, but it was the same girl from the phone background. Sophie loves bringing holistic wellness to her clients. She worked Tuesday nights. He was filling up his car near her work. He was picking her up. But where was the rent? $300 a week in cash wasn't enough for an apartment in Portland. Rent was $2,000 minimum. I checked our joint account again. Nothing. I checked his personal account. I had the password from years ago. He never changed his email password. Nothing large enough. Then I remembered the text. Transferred the rent. Check is in the mail. If it wasn't coming from our personal accounts, there was only one place left, the business account. I didn't have access to the analog LLC bank records. Gideon handled the books. Jasper just had a company card and checkbook. If he was writing checks from the business, he was stealing from Gideon. I sat back in my chair. That was the nuke. That was the button I could push to blow up his entire world. But I needed proof. I needed a check number. Saturday night. The performance reached its peak. We were hosting Gideon and his wife, Mara, for dinner. This had been on the calendar for weeks. Canceling would look suspicious. So I had to put on a dress, curl my hair, and play the role of the doting wife to a man who was building a nursery for another woman. I made risotto. It takes focus, stirring, constant stirring. Jasper was in charm mode. He was pouring expensive Barolo for Gideon, talking about the resurgence of vinyl among Gen Z. The margins are thin, Jasper was saying, gesturing with his wine glass. But the cultural cachet is invaluable. We're not just selling records, Gideon. We're selling an experience. Gideon nodded, but he looked tired. He was a pragmatic guy, a retired investment banker who indulged Jasper's hipster dreams because they used to be college roommates. Experience is great, Jazz, but the overhead is creeping up. I was looking at the P&L last week. The miscellaneous operational costs are up 15% this quarter. What is that? Shipping? I froze mid-stir. Jasper didn't miss a beat, but I saw his hand tighten on the glass. Shipping, yeah, and storage. We had to rent an off-site unit for the surplus inventory. The shop basement is full. Storage. The Avery wasn't a storage unit. It was an apartment. Right, Gideon said, taking a sip. Well, we need to tighten the belt. I'm bringing in an auditor next month just to streamline things before tax season. The color drained from Jasper's face. It was subtle, just a slight blanching of the cheeks, but I saw it. An auditor? Jasper laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. Is that necessary? I can just have my guy run the reports. No offense to your guy, Gideon said, but I want a third party, just standard procedure. I walked over with the risotto platter, setting it down with a smile that felt like it was stapled to my face. That sounds smart, Gideon, I said, looking directly at Jasper. You can never be too careful with the books, right, honey? Jasper looked at me. His eyes were wide, panicked. He knew I was an analyst. He knew I understood exactly what an audit meant. Right, he croaked. Smart. I sat down and unfolded my napkin. So, Mara said brightly. Any vacation plans this winter? Maybe Mexico? We were thinking about it, Jasper said quickly. Actually, I said, pouring myself a very large glass of wine, we're holding off on plans. Jasper has been working so many late nights with inventory. I think he's building something big. I took a sip. Isn't that right, Jasper? He stared at me, terror flickering behind his eyes. He didn't know what I knew, but he knew something was wrong. Just big plans for the shop, he muttered. I ate my risotto. It was delicious. The taste of impending victory was the best seasoning I'd ever had. The clock was ticking. The auditor was coming. He was trapped. But I wasn't going to wait for the auditor. I was going to get there first. Otis called me on Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of a migration meeting listening to the head of IT drone on about server load balancing. When my phone buzzed with the name Otis Plumber, my alias for him, I stood up and walked out without a word. I'm in the stairwell, I whispered, the echo bouncing off the concrete walls. What do you have? I have a visual, Otis said. His voice was gravelly, tired. And you're not going to like it. Just tell me. Meet me. Same spot. 30 minutes. I left work. I told Mason I had a gyno emergency. He turned bright red and waved me off. 30 minutes later, I was sliding into the booth at Slim's. Otis didn't have a burger this time. He had a manila envelope. He slid it across the chipped Formica table. Open it. I opened the clasp. The photos spilled out. They were high resolution, taken with a telephoto lens. Photo 1, Jasper's Audi parked in front of a modern gray-paneled apartment building. The sign out front read The Avery. Photo 2, Jasper walking up to the door. He wasn't wearing his work clothes. He was wearing sweatpants. He looked comfortable. Photo 3, Jasper carrying 3 grocery bags from Whole Foods. I could see the logo. We never shopped at Whole Foods. He said it was corporate greenwashing. Yet there he was, buying organic kale for someone else. Then I saw the 4th photo. Jasper was standing in the doorway holding the door open with his hip. In his hand he was clutching a diaper bag, a gray, tactical-looking diaper bag. He's moving in, Otis said, sipping his black coffee. He's been there 3 times this week, arrives at 5:30, leaves at 10 Sao. Sometimes he stays over. He has a key, Lena. He didn't buzz in. He used a fob. I stared at the key fob in the photo. It was dangling from his keychain, the same keychain he put in the bowl every night. I had seen that gray fob for months. He told me it was for the new storage unit. The storage unit, I whispered, feeling sick. He told me it was for storage. Well, Otis said dryly, technically he is storing something there, a second family. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. I angrily wiped it away. Did you get the apartment number? Couldn't get past the lobby, Otis grunted. Secure building, key fob entry only. But I saw him go to the 4th floor. Lights went on in the corner unit facing the street. That's 4B or 4C. 4B, I said, remembering the text about the Avery rent. It has to be. I can keep watching, Otis said, but this is enough for a divorce, lady. You got him dead to rights. I don't just want a divorce, I said, putting the photos back in the envelope. I want the money trail. I need to know who is paying for Unit 4B. Wednesday morning, I called in sick, real sick this time, a migraine. I drove to the Avery. It was in the Pearl District, just 6 blocks from Jasper's shop. He was so lazy. He had built his secret life within walking distance of his job so he could pop over for a quick inventory check. I parked down the street and sat on a bench near the entrance, pretending to read a book. I waited. At 10:15 a.m., the front door opened. An older woman struggled out, pulling a granny cart filled with groceries. She dropped a bag of oranges. They rolled everywhere. I jumped up. Here, let me help you. I chased an orange into the gutter and brought it back to her. Oh, bless you, dear, she huffed, adjusting her glasses. She looked at me, squinting. Then she froze. Sophie? She asked. My heart stopped. Excuse me? Oh, she laughed, adjusting her spectacles. I'm sorry. For a second you looked just like the girl in 4B, Sophie. Are you her sister? You have the same nose, the same jawline. I didn't correct her. I leaned in. Actually, yes, I'm her cousin, Lena. I knew it. The woman beamed. I'm Mrs. Higgins, 4A, right next door. Nice to meet you, I said, my brain racing. I was just coming to visit, but, well, I wanted to see how she's doing. She seems so stressed lately. Mrs. Higgins' face darkened. She leaned in conspiratorially. Stressed isn't the word, honey. It's that man of hers, Jasper. Hearing his name from a stranger's mouth felt like being punched in the gut. Is he not treating her well? I asked, my voice trembling for real. He's loud, Mrs. Higgins whispered. The walls are thin. I hear them arguing. She wants him to leave his wife. She's crying all the time, asking, when, Jasper? When? And he just keeps saying, after the baby comes, after I secure the money. It's heartbreaking. A nice girl like that, waiting on a man who won't commit. He pays for everything, sure. I see the packages, the furniture deliveries, but he won't give her a ring. He pays for everything? I asked. Oh yes, the rent checks? I've seen the envelopes he leaves for the landlord in the drop box downstairs, always in those stiff business envelopes. Analog audio or something? My knees almost gave out. Analog audio, I repeated. That's the one, Mrs. Higgins said. Listen, tell her to be careful. A man who cheats with you will cheat on you. I will, I said, my voice hollow. I definitely will. I didn't go home. I went to a coffee shop with secure Wi-Fi and opened my laptop. Business envelopes. Analog audio. He was paying the rent directly from the shop. He wasn't even laundering it through a personal account. He was writing checks from the LLC. I knew Jasper's passwords. He used variations of the same three things. His favorite band, Radiohead, his birth year, 1988, and the shop name. I went to the cloud accounting portal for Analog. Gideon used QuickBooks Online. Username Jasper at analogkdx.com. Password Radiohead 8E8. Access denied. Okay, he changed it. Try Radiohead 89. Access denied. Try Analog 2023. Access denied. I closed my eyes. Think. What was the password on the burner phone? 0909. The founding date. Try Analog 909. Loading. The dashboard popped up. My hands flew across the keyboard. I went to expenses. I filtered by vendor. I saw a recurring vendor, Pearl Property Management. I clicked on it. OT1, $2,400. Category, storage and warehousing. Septine 1, $2,400. Category, storage and warehousing. EOG 1, $2,400. Category, storage and warehousing. 6 months of payments, totaling $14,400. I clicked on the attachments icon for the October payment. Jasper, the idiot, the absolute meticulous idiot, had uploaded a scan of the lease agreement because Gideon insisted on receipts for everything over $500. I opened the PDF, Residential Lease Agreement. Tenant Sophie Callahan, Guarantor Analog Audio LLC, signed by Jasper Thorne, Managing Member. He had signed the company name as the guarantor for his mistress's apartment. I downloaded everything, the checks, the lease, the ledger entries categorizing a luxury apartment as storage. This wasn't just grounds for divorce. This was embezzlement. This was fraud. This was a violation of the LLC operating agreement. I had him. I had him by the throat. I sat in that coffee shop for 2 hours, staring at the draft email to Gideon. Subject, urgent. Financial irregularities at Analog Gideon. I'm writing this to you not as Jasper's wife, but as a concerned party. I discovered some discrepancies in the shop's finances that I believe you need to see immediately. Attached are records of payments totaling $14,400 to Pearl Property Management over the last 6 months. These are categorized as storage, but the attached lease agreement shows they are for a residential unit occupied by a Ms. Sophie Callahan. I believe Jasper is using company funds to maintain a personal relationship. I am filing for divorce. I wanted you to know before the papers are served. Lena. I hovered over the send button. This was it. The nuclear option. Once I sent this, there was no going back. Jasper would lose the shop. He would lose his income. He would be destroyed. I thought about the pregnancy test in the trash. I thought about him telling me I was careless for leaving a mug out. I thought about the gray diaper bag. I thought about Mrs. Higgins saying, "He's loud." I hear them arguing. I clicked send. Renee called me 10 minutes later. "You sent it?" she asked. I sent it. "Good. Gideon just called my office. He's furious. He wants to know if we're serving Jasper immediately." "Yes," I said. "We serve him." "We have a slight logistical problem," Renee said. "Jasper is at the shop. Gideon is on his way there now. If we send a server to the shop, it's going to be a scene." "Let it be a scene," I said. My voice was ice cold. "He embarrassed me in my own home. He brought her into my bathroom. Serve him at the shop. Do it today. Do it during the audio file mixer." "The mixer is in an hour," Renee said. "It'll be packed." "Exactly," I said. "Maximum impact." "You're ruthless, Lena," Renee said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "I love it. The server is en route." I didn't go to the shop. I couldn't watch, but I saw it happen. Mason came into my office at 2:30 p.m. He held up his phone. "You need to see this," he said. "One of the hipsters at the mixer is live streaming." I looked at the screen. The shop was crowded. People holding wine glasses, browsing vinyl. Jasper was behind the counter, holding court, laughing, looking like the king of his little kingdom. Then a man in a windbreaker walked up to the counter. He didn't look like a customer. He pushed past a guy in a beanie. "Jasper Thorne?" the man asked loudly. "Yeah?" Jasper turned, smiling. "Can I help you?" "You've been served." The man slapped a thick packet of papers onto the counter, right on top of a stack of limited edition Radiohead LPs. The room went quiet. "What the hell is this?" Jasper shouted, his face turning red. "Get out of my shop!" "It's public record, buddy," the server said, walking away. Jasper grabbed the papers. He ripped the envelope open. Then the door chimed. Gideon walked in. He didn't look like the friendly uncle from dinner. He looked like an executioner. He walked straight up to Jasper. "Gideon," Jasper stammered, holding the divorce papers. "This guy just... Lydia is crazy, she..." "Shut up," Gideon boomed. His voice echoed through the shop. "I got the email, Jasper. I saw the checks." "Storage fees? Are you kidding me?" "Gideon, let me explain." "You're stealing from me," Gideon yelled. He wasn't caring about the customers anymore. "You're paying your mistress's rent with my money. You're fired. Get out. Get out now." The live stream shook as the person filming gasped. "Oh, snap," someone whispered in the video. I watched Jasper look around the room, dozens of eyes staring at him, his customers, his fans, his community. He shrank. He physically seemed to deflate. He dropped the papers on the counter and ran. He literally ran into the back office and slammed the door. Mason turned off the phone. "Remind me never to piss you off," he whispered. "He did it to himself," I said, turning back to my monitor. "I just turned on the lights." He came home at 4 p.m. I was sitting on the gray sofa, the one he hated because it wasn't mid-century modern enough, drinking a glass of wine. I was calm, terrifyingly calm. The door flew open. Jasper stormed in. He looked wild. His hair was messy, his shirt untucked. "Are you insane?" he screamed, throwing his keys at the wall. They dented the plaster. "You served me at the mixer? In front of Gideon? In front of everyone?" "Hello, Jasper," I said, taking a sip. "How was inventory?" "Stop it! Stop with the sarcasm!" He paced around the living room, hyperventilating. "Gideon locked me out of the accounts. He says he's triggering the buyout clause. I'm losing the shop, Lena. My shop. It's not your shop anymore, I said. It's Gideon's shop. You just work there. Or worked there. He stopped pacing. He looked at me with pure hatred. You hacked my accounts. You spied on me. That's illegal. So is embezzlement, I countered. And so is signing a lease for the Avery under the company name. He froze. The color drained from his face entirely. You know about the Avery? I know about everything, Jasper. I know about Sophie. I know about the baby. I found the test in the trash. I found the prenatal vitamins in the bathroom. I found the receipt. It was a mistake, he stammered, the fight draining out of him. He switched tactics instantly. He dropped to his knees in front of me. Lena, baby, please, she trapped me. I don't love her. It was just stress. A fling that got out of hand. She stopped taking the pill. She did this to me. I looked down at him. He was crying now. Ugly, snotty tears. She trapped you? I asked. Yes. I told her I didn't want it. I told her I loved you. Is that why you bought the crib? I asked softly. He blinked. What? The crib, Jasper. Otis saw the delivery. You ordered a $800 sustainable oak crib for the apartment. You don't buy a crib for a trap. You buy a crib for a baby you're planning to keep. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The lie died in his throat. You told me children were parasites, I said, my voice finally cracking. You told me I wasn't enough, but you were building a nursery with her. He whispered. I was scared. You're a coward, I said, and you're evicted. What? He looked around the loft. You can't kick me out. This is my home. Actually, I said, standing up, it's not. The lease is in my name. Remember? Your credit was shot when we moved in because of the first failed business. I'm the only leaseholder. You're just an authorized occupant. And I revoked your authorization this morning. I pointed to the door. You have 20 minutes to pack a bag and leave. If you're not gone, I'm calling the police to have you removed for trespassing. I have the paperwork right here. I held up the letter from the landlord acknowledging his removal. Where am I supposed to go? He whined. Gideon froze the cards. I have no cash. Go to the Avery, I said. Oh, wait. The rent check is going to bounce on the 1st, isn't it? Better hurry. He scrambled. It was pathetic. He grabbed his clothes, stuffing them into trash bags because I had hidden the suitcases. He tried to grab his vintage turntable. Ah, I said, put that down. It's mine. Receipt shows it was purchased with the joint Amex, I said. That's a marital asset. It stays here until the division of property is settled. He looked at me like I was a monster. You're enjoying this. I'm really not, I said truthfully. I just want you gone. He dropped the turntable. He grabbed his bag of clothes. He looked at me one last time at the door. You're cold, Lydia. You were always too cold. And you were sloppy, Jasper. Goodbye. He slammed the door. I walked over and locked the deadbolt. Then I slid the chain lock into place. I sat down on the floor and listened to his footsteps fade down the hallway. I didn't cry. I felt lighter. Like I had just dropped a 200-pound rucksack I'd been carrying for 7 years. 3 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Hello? Is this Lydia? A woman's voice, young, shaky. This is Lena, I said, using my new name in my head, but answering to the old one. Who is this? It's Sophie. I stiffened. How did you get my number? It was on the emergency contact list at the the clinic. Jasper had it in his file. What do you want, Sophie? He's here, she whispered. He's at the apartment. He's a mess. He told me everything. He said you ruined him. He ruined himself, I said. I just showed everyone the blueprints. He said, she paused and I heard a sniffle. He said we have to move out. He said the money is gone. Is it true? Is he really broke? He's unemployed and being sued by his business partner for embezzlement, I said. So yes, he's broke. Oh my God, she sobbed. I'm 6 months pregnant. I can't work. I don't have anywhere to go. He promised me he had savings. He promised me he was leaving you because you were abusive." "Abusive?" I laughed. It was a harsh sound. "I was paying the bills, Sophie. I was funding his hobby shop while he played house with you." "I didn't know," she cried. "I swear I didn't know about the money. He told me the shop was making millions. He told me you were roommates, basically, that it was over years ago." "He lied," I said. "That's what he does. He lies to women to get what he wants. He wanted a baby without the responsibility. Now he has both." "What am I going to do?" she asked, sounding like a child. "I don't know," I said, and surprisingly I felt a twinge of pity, not enough to help her but enough to be human. "But if I were you, I'd call your parents. Jasper isn't going to save you. He can't even save himself." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I really am." "I know," I said. "Goodbye, Sophie." I hung up. I blocked the number. The divorce was finalized in 6 weeks. It was a speed run. Jasper didn't have a lawyer. He couldn't afford one. He signed whatever Renee put in front of him. I kept the loft. I kept my retirement. I kept the car. He got his clothes and his personal effects, which amounted to his record collection and his debt. It was a rainy Tuesday night in November, the first real storm of the season. I had the fireplace going. It was a gas fireplace, but it looked real enough. I pulled out the file box. Project Demolition. I sat on the rug with a glass of $2 Chuck because I didn't need to buy the $50 Pinot anymore to pretend I had a sophisticated palate. I liked cheap wine. I opened the folder. I took out the photos of him at the Avery. Flick. Into the fire. The edges curled, the image of him holding the diaper bag turning black and crumbling into ash. I took out the printout of the lease. Flick. The signature Jasper Thorne disappeared in a burst of orange flame. I took out the receipt for the prenatal vitamins, the very first thing I found. I looked at it one last time. The piece of paper that started the war. "Careless," I whispered. I tossed it in. It burned fast, a flash of white light, then gone. I watched the fire for a long time. I realized I wasn't just burning evidence. I was burning the version of myself that tried to please him. The Lena who walked on eggshells. The Lena who pretended to like jazz fusion. The Lena who agreed not to have kids because she was afraid of losing him. She was gone, burned up with the lies. I took a long sip of wine. It tasted like freedom. I was walking past a bookstore on Hawthorne Boulevard yesterday. Not his bookstore. That one was closed, the windows papered over with 4 lease signs. This was a chain store. One of the big ones he used to mock relentlessly as the death of culture. I went in to grab a magazine. I was standing in the line for the cafe looking at my phone when I heard a voice. "Grande hot milk latte for Sarah." I looked up. There, behind the espresso machine, wearing a green apron and a visor, was Jasper. He looked older, tired. The spark was gone. His beard was trimmed poorly. He had a stain on his shirt. He handed the cup to the customer and looked up. Our eyes locked. He froze. The milk pitcher in his hand trembled. For a second, I thought he was going to say something. Maybe apologize. Maybe yell. Maybe ask for money. I saw his mouth open slightly. "Lena," he mouthed. I looked at him. I looked at the green apron. I looked at the trainee pin on his chest. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel triumph. I felt nothing. He was just a guy making coffee, a blurry figure in the background of my life. I put my sunglasses on even though we were indoors. I turned around and walked out the door without buying anything. The cool Portland air hit my face. I took a deep breath. It smelled like rain and pine and possibility. I walked to my car, got in, and drove away. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. I had a date tonight with a guy named Marcus, not Mason, we're just friends. He's an architect. He likes dogs. And when I told him I might want kids someday, he smiled and said, "That sounds like an adventure." I'm ready for the adventure. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.